Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday Learning Bhagavatam class. Hope you're all well. Today, we're going to discuss Canto 8, Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creation, Chapter 24, Matsya, the Lord Fish's Incarnation. And after a long time, we've got His Grace, Radha Govinda Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, over to you.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you all so much for coming. Hope you all can hear me okay. It's good to be back here again with the devotees discussing the Bhagavatam. What an amazing thing to do. And it's so good to know that you made it to the 8th canto. Not long to go before the end, but I think it may still take a few months. Well, first of all, thank you. I would love to do a kirtan. I have got a guitar here. The problem is that if I do a kirtan, it's going to wake up the baby who's just sleeping next door. So, as some of you may know, I took a bit of a break because now we got a baby. So, go look after the baby, and we got a small flat, so like the sound goes everywhere. So we're gonna skip the kirtan for today, but kirtan also means glorification of the Lord, so we shall be doing that for sure. So please stay tuned, and we're going to be discussing Canto 8, Chapter 24 of the Bhagavatam about the Lord's fish incarnation. Are you guys ready? Yeah? Okay, so we'll try and cover the chapter today. It's a very interesting chapter. There's a few mystical things that are happening in this chapter here, which we will go through as we get to it. Okay, so first of all, I want to tell you a little bit of a philosophy that Srila Prabhupada also discusses in the beginning of the chapter. And he talks about how the Lord comes in many, many different forms. And the Lord especially has different types of incarnations. So what you need to remember is there are mainly two types. Okay, two types of incarnations. So one is, Krishna says, Swamsha. Swamsha, it comes from two Sanskrit words, Swa and Amsha. So Amsha means a part, and Swamsha means Swa Amsha means the Lord's own manifestation. So that is the Lord's personal manifestations, that's his personal expansions. These get further classified into many, many different types, which we won't get into because it is beyond the jurisdiction of this talk today. You can read more about that in the book called Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. But Swamsha is one, that is the Lord's personal incarnation. The other type of incarnation of the Lord, or let's say not quite an incarnation, slightly different, then the other type of, sorry, it's just notifications. The other type of one is called Vibhin Amsha. So Vibhin, Amsha means part, and Vibhin Amsha means many, many different parts. So it's said that separated parts, so that is Vibhin Amsha, and that refers to the living entities. So the living entities are also part of the Lord, but they're separated parts, so they're called Vibhin Amsha. And then the part of the Lord that is still connected with the Lord, that is his personal expansion, is called Swamsha. So Swamsha has many, many categories, which we won't get into, but there are different incarnations of the Lord, different types of incarnations. There's the Purusha avatars, which are the Lord's expansions for the creation of the material world. Then there's the Leela avatars, there's many different types, the Shaktyavesha avatars, like that. But the fish is a Leela avatar of the Lord. He performs certain pastime, and he is a Swamsha incarnation, so the Lord's own personal expansion. Why this is important? We could just talk about the story, but the philosophy is very, very important because the philosophy keeps us grounded, and it sort of gives a philosophical understanding to the actual story. It might be nice to just hear a story about a fish that's swimming around and saving people, but it will make a lot more sense if we talk about the incarnation and how it actually works. So, Swamsa incarnation of the Lord. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, the other thing I want to tell you is how it's interesting how Parikshit Maharaj asks Sukadeva Goswami that why did the Lord appear as a fish? Okay, and he says specifically that a fish is a very abominable, very like, it's like, who thinks about fish? Nobody thinks about fish nowadays. We think about bears and the panda bears going extinct, and we think about dinosaurs, and we think about whatnot. Nobody thinks about fish. Occasionally there's a movie like Jaws or something, where there's like sharks and stuff, and occasionally a whale here and there, but Otherwise, we don't really think about fish, and fish don't have a very good life. They get eaten all the time. Doesn't matter how big a fish you are, there's always a bigger fish to eat you. So it's not a very good life as a fish. And so Parikshit Maharaj is saying, like, why does the Lord have to come as a fish? Well, the point is, the Lord comes as whatever is necessary to do the job perfectly. So when the earth needs rescuing because it's buried in the bottom of the earth, he takes the form of an animal that is very good at digging, which is a pig. Okay. Now you'd say, why would the Lord want to come as a pig? Okay, not quite a pig, but a boar. A boar is just a pig with horns, a pig with tusks. So why would the Lord want to come as a pig? But when the Lord comes as a pig, he's very he's very respected, and he glorifies the form of the boar when he comes. So when Vishnu comes as a boar, he's very respected, even though the boar is not such a fun creature. I don't know if you come across boars. They're quite aggressive occasionally, but they're also they're not fun. They're not, if you want to hang out with any animal, it's not the boar. So, but when the Lord comes as a boar, it's the boar's glorified. Okay. Then when something needs ripping apart, okay, then he comes as a lion, okay, or as a half man, half lion, okay, like that. So that's important. There's no coming as a boar when things need ripping apart. You need a lion. So in the same way, when there's need for water, he comes as a fish. So Parikshit Maharaj asks that, what is the story? Can you tell us a story a little bit about the fish? Now, doesn't matter what, one thing you need to know is, doesn't matter whatever form the Lord comes in, whether as a boar, as a fish, as a cow, as a lion, whatever it may be the case, the Lord is not affected by these different forms. Okay, he is beyond all these things. And the example that the Bhagavad Gita gives us, or Krishna gives us in the Bhagavad Gita, is that just like the air is not affected by the aroma, the air carries the aroma, but the air is not affected. It's just a carrier that is carrying it, puts it somewhere else, and then goes away. Okay, so the air carries this aroma. So like, for example, if you go to like lavender fields, you'll smell nice lavender because the air is carrying that fragrance and it is bringing it to you. And then the air goes somewhere further, and then it carries some other aroma. The air is not affected. In the same way, I don't know if you're driving and if you've been stuck behind a garbage truck. Okay, have you ever been stuck behind a garbage truck? Okay, you'll smell the garbage truck. Now, I don't see garbage trucks all the time. They only come out 1 or 2 days a week at specific times. But I don't know how mathematically this works, but everybody has got stuck behind a garbage truck at least once. Okay, tell me if you haven't got stuck behind a garbage truck. Everyone smelled the back of a garbage truck at least once, even though there's not so many around. I don't know how that works. I've been stuck behind a garbage truck so many times, but you can't bear the smell of a garbage truck. But the air is not contaminated. The same air can go to the lavender fields and smell like lavender. So the Lord can come in many, many different forms. He can come as a pig, he can come as a lion, he can come as a fish, but he is not affected by these things because he's beyond the modes of material nature. Okay, he's beyond all of this. He's like the air that carries things, but he's not affected. So don't think that the form of a lion is better than the form of a pig, is better than the form of a fish, because the Lord is the same in all these incarnations, and in either of these incarnations he is not affected. Now here's something interesting. Here we come to an interesting part of the discussion, that when did this fish incarnation come about? Okay, that's something that's discussed. So, Brahma has a long life. Ridiculously long life. So there are 4 yugas, as we know, the Treta Yuga, Satya Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga, like that. And they repeat over and over, not in that particular order. Satya comes first. But they repeat over and over. And they repeat 1,000 times. And that is one of Brahma's days. Okay, these 4 yugas 1,000 times is Brahma's day. And then Brahma sleeps at night, because you can imagine if he's creating universes, it takes a bit of work, he gets tired, he needs to sleep at night. So he rests at night, he doesn't create the universe. So, and every kalpa, or every few kalpas like that, every few days, it's the reign of a different Manu. So Manu is like the, father of creation. Okay, he is the one who sort of leads the way into creation of the universe once it's been created. So within a lifetime of Brahma, it is said there are 14 Manus. Okay, there are 14 Manus. So different Manus. So the first thing Prabhupada talks about is, and this is very interesting, I found out today, or yesterday when I was reading, I didn't know this. So during the age of Swayambhuva Manu, who is one of the first Manus, during his reign, when Brahma's day finished, and when Brahma was sleeping at night, the Vedas escaped him. So the Vedas are oral, okay? This is the time when they haven't been written yet. Vishnu's imparted the Vedas to Brahma into his heart, as we know from the Brahma Samhita, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. Okay, so it's imparted into the heart of Brahma, and they're oral. So when Brahma sleeps, and sometimes, I don't know, when Brahma breathes, okay, it's the Vedas. Brahma breathes the Vedas. So the Vedas sort of escape him, and they were they were stolen by a demon called Hayagriva. Interesting. I always thought Hayagriva was a form of Vishnu, was a form of Avatar, the horse-headed incarnation called Hayagriva. Interestingly, there's a demon called Hayagriva as well. So I did some research. So there is a demon called Hayagriva who steals the Vedas, and sometimes the Lord comes as a horse-headed Hayagriva to kill the horse-headed demon Hayagriva. Just in case, it wasn't confusing enough. You got two horse-headed creatures fighting each other. So that happens sometimes. But in other kalpas, Prabhupada explains here that when the Vedas were stolen by a horse-headed Hayagriva demon, they were rescued by the Lord's fish incarnation, Matsya. Now, if you try to imagine how a horse fights a fish, okay, get it out of your head. I don't know how that works. But the Vedas were rescued by the Matsya incarnation. And turns out there are two Matsya incarnations. If you read the summary and if you read the purpose of the verses, you'll find out that there are two Matsya incarnations. Now, I knew there were two boar incarnations. That's quite common knowledge. One is a red boar and one is a white boar. But I didn't know there were two fish incarnations. But turns out there are. So fish number one, Matsya number one, fights or rescues the Vedas during the reign of Swayambhuva Manu. And then there is another Manu who comes along later on. His name is Chakshusha Manu. Okay? Chakshusha Manu, during his reign, the fish comes again. And that is the story of this fish in this particular chapter. So not the Swayambhuva Manu, not the fish who saves the Vedas. That's a different story. I don't know where that is. That's somewhere in some other Bhagavatam, somewhere else. But in the Bhagavatam we've got, it is the fish who saves the king Satyavrat, which is this chapter all about. So, does that make sense? Okay. If it doesn't, then hang around. It probably will. Okay. Now here's the story. This is how it goes. There is a king called Satyavrata who lives during the reign of the Manu Chakshusha Manu. Okay, this is a different reign. So this king, he's a very devout king. He worships the Lord and is a pious king. Satyavrat, okay, not to be confused with the sage Satyavrat Muni, who is attributed to writing the Damodarashtakam. Okay, different guy, same name. People can have, more than one person can have the same name. I'm sure there's another Dharmendra somewhere. In fact, I know I've heard of a Dharmendra. He was a very famous actor in Bollywood, Dharmendra. But I'm sure there's more names of different people. So Satyavrat Muni, different guy. Satyavrat King, different guy. So he was also a devotee, and there was a time when he was performing a vrat, or like austerity, where he's only drinking water. Okay, it's very difficult. I don't know if you just try to survive with just drinking water. Back in the day, when I was a young lad, which now I'm not, as you can tell, because I got gray hair on my beard. no young lad anymore. But when I was a young lad, I used to do a full fast for Janmashtami. I used to drink no water, eat no food, and I used to do a full Janmashtami fast till midnight. Nowadays, I've become a bit of a wimp. So I still fast, but I drink water. Okay, I drink water in the day. But even with water, it's very difficult. Try doing a fast. Your body gets kind of weak. In the morning, you're okay. You still got sort of enthusiasm and stuff like that. You drink a bit of water. But then by about 4 o'clock, that's when things start getting a bit difficult. By about 4 or 5 o'clock, because your body realizes, because your body is living in anticipation. Okay, the food's coming, food's coming. 12 o'clock, food doesn't come. It's like, okay, maybe things are a bit late. Maybe someone's cooking for me somewhere. Okay. 2 o'clock, the food doesn't come. Okay, now things are getting serious. And 4 o'clock, no food. And now the body knows the food isn't coming. Must be one of those blinking fasting days. So your body starts, 4 o'clock is when it hits you. 4, 5 o'clock, whenever I don't eat, I fast. That's the most difficult time. But if you can make it past that 1 hour, 4 to 6 or something like that, couple of hours, then you're kind of okay again. Then you can kind of, you can make it till about midnight, and then you kind of just, shovel in the food, prasadam at midnight on Janmashtami like that. But just drinking water is a difficult austerity. It's a very difficult austerity. So he was doing this austerity, and especially when you're doing a fast where you're meant to pray with something that you're not having. I remember one of the, the only time I do a non-water fast is during Nirjala Ekadashi. Once Bhima Ekadashi comes around June, July, like that. And I remember in 2014 or 15, a few years ago, I think we had our London Rath Yatra during Nirjala Ekadashi. So no water, no food, and it was a Rath Yatra in London. And guess where the London Rath Yatra ends? It ends in Trafalgar Square, and everywhere around you is just water. There's just fountains everywhere, and all you can hear in Trafalgar Square is water. And then you're doing a fast without drinking water, and it's like your mind goes just like, I just want this water, give me water. And then you just there by the water. You can hear the water, you can see the water, but you can't drink it. So it's a difficult one. So Satyavrat Muni was there, and he was doing a fast, and he was worshipping the Ganges with water, not Ganges, some other river. He was doing some worship, and then he picked up some water. Okay, he picked up some water, and in the water he saw a little fish. There's a little fish in the water. Now, in the West, if you pick up some water and there was a fish, you would go, hey, fish, let's cook it. Sorry, bad joke. But Satyavrat, King Satyavrat, he got the fish and he felt sorry for the fish, and he said, sorry, fishy, I'm going to send you back. So he's about to put the fish back in the water when the fish talks to him. Interesting, back in the day, beings used to talk to you. Demigods used to actually, when you used to do a yagya, the demigods would actually fly in and come and sit down, and you would see them. Nowadays we don't see anybody, but back in the day you could. And then this fish talks to you, and the king is astonished. But miracles used to happen back in the day. Nowadays a fish talks to you, you like, you go straight to the psychologist. Okay, I need myself assessed. This fish is talking to me, and they'll give you some medication to dumb you down. But King Satyavrat had this fish, and the fish spoke to him and said, "Oh my dear king, please don't put me back in the water. There are bigger creatures in the river that will eat me. So can you take me with you and keep me somewhere safe?" So fish spoke to him, if I got a talking fish somewhere, I would definitely bring it home, look after it, because it's nice, talking fish. In my Gujarati mind, I would be thinking, how can I make money with this talking fish? I'll definitely not kill it. I want it to live because I can make some money from a talking fish. But Satyavrat Muni brings the fish back, and he puts the fish in a jug. Now he sleeps, he wakes up overnight, the fish has grown. It's not just a talking fish, it's it's a fish on steroids. It's growing really fast. And this fish has kind of grown and filled up the whole jug. It's very, obviously, very uncomfortable in that jug. So the fish talks to the king again in the morning and says, Hare Krishna, dear king. Well, it doesn't say Hare Krishna. It says, dear king, my dear king, I'm very uncomfortable in this place. Can you put me in like a bigger place? I need to be able to swim about, and this jug is very small for me now. So the king takes the fish and puts it in a well. Now, in no time, this fish, which is obviously on steroids, has grown and is the size of a well. Now, a few months ago, I kind of injured my knee. So just a little detour. I injured my knee, so then I had to kind of deal with it. So I went to the GP. They put me on a waiting list to get an appointment with a physiotherapist. Okay, now those things can take ages. So I didn't get my turn till about 8 months. After 8 months, I went to the physiotherapist and they did some exercises with me. And then after about 5 weeks, they're like, yeah, you can go now. I'm like, well, what do you mean you can go? The issue is not really sorted. He goes, yeah, you only get 5 weeks for free. You can figure it out yourself. We've shown you the exercises. So, so I go to the gym, mainly to do exercises for my knee. But then while I'm there, I look at all this equipment. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I should do some shoulder press. You know, I should do some chest press. You know, I can do some biceps, some triceps, some different exercises. I do some exercises. I have a bit of protein, but nothing's really growing, as you can see. It's kind of very difficult. It's difficult to put on muscle like that. But this fish, my God, the fish just grows in like a few minutes, and it's taken up the whole well. Okay, so this fish is as big as a well, and then the fish says, this well is too small for me. Can you take me somewhere else? So the King Satyavrat, takes a fish and puts the fish in a lake. And in no time, the fish grows and it's the size of a lake. Okay? And then the king is like really confused. And then the fish says, you know what? This lake is too small for me. You got to take me to a bigger place. The only thing that's bigger than a lake is the sea. So the king takes the fish to the sea. Now, if you were thinking, how did the king carry a big fish the size of a lake into the sea? Then stop thinking, because I don't have the answer to that. And when I was reading the chapter, I was also thinking, okay, you can carry a fish the size of a jug to the well. You can somehow manage to carry a fish the size of a well to a lake. But I don't know how you carry a fish the size of a lake to a sea. I think modern scientists would also struggle with that, with modern equipment. But I think back in the day, they had mantras, mystic powers. So somehow he moved the fish. Don't ask me how. Please don't let that be one of your questions at the end. I have no idea. But the king somehow takes the fish to the sea. And the fish is in the sea. And by now, the kings realize that there's something mystical about this fish, of course. Tell me what's going on here. So the fish tells the king, the fish says that it is time for the earth to be burdened with water. Okay, it's time for things to change. So very soon a time will come when everything's going to be inundated with water. And at that time, I will come. That time I will come and save you. You will see a boat, he says. And on this boat, you got to get different sages, different herbs, different trees, different animals, and you got to get on as well. And then stay on the boat. Then I'll come and save you, says the fish. Reminded me of a story of Noah's Ark. Remember that story of Noah's Ark? But Noah builds the boat. Satyavrat Muni doesn't build the boat. The boat comes to him. Maybe Noah built the boat and picks up Satyavrat Muni on the way. I'm not sure how it works. But the boat comes. So it is said that Satyavrat Muni waits to follow the instruction of the Lord, because that was his, now he got his life's purpose. You see, even if it was just getting on a boat and saving all these things, he had a purpose in life because the Lord gave him a purpose. Whenever the Lord says something, you got to do it. Okay. Now, if the Lord hasn't said something to you yet, then don't worry, because you might be a while. But what you got to do is the representative of the Lord is a spiritual master who will give you the instruction. So go and find one. Now, more on this later, because interestingly, Matsya talks about the spiritual master, and so does the king, Satyavrat. So we'll come to that in a bit. But the Lord has given him an instruction, a very special instruction, a very personal instruction. So that is kind of like the goal of his life now. Okay, so he's waiting. And as he's waiting, the time comes when the water slowly starts rising, the seas start rising and things like that. Whatever you may call it, modern scientists may call it global warming and things like that, levels of the water rising, but it happens in different ways. Now, so the water starts rising, so the boat comes, he gets on the boat, he does what the Lord has asked him to do, and everybody's on the boat. Then comes a fish. This is Matsya, the fish incarnation of the Lord. So it's the same fish that was growing, okay? And now it has grown to a superhuman size. Not just a superhuman size, it's grown to a super humongous size. Now here's mystery number 2. Mystery number X, because we've had a few mysteries so far. Here's the mystery. The size of the fish. Can someone guess the size of the fish? Any guess? Any guesses from palm to jug to well to lake to sea? Now can someone guess the size of the fish? Whale? Bigger than a whale? Well, I'll tell you how big it was. Okay, the fish in the Bhagavatam, it is said Matsya the fish was 8 million miles big. 8 million miles. Okay. Now let me give you an analogy to understand how much that is. The diameter of the earth is approximately 8,000 miles. So you take 1,000 earths and line them up next to each other. That's 8 million miles. So that's the length of the fish. The fish is 1,000 earth planets put next to each other. It's a huge fish. Okay. It is a big fish. I'm only thinking about the ocean, how big the ocean is, if the fish is that big. And where is the 8 million mile long fish getting to? Okay, where does he want to go? That must be a very far destination. The thing is, we often with our little heads try to calculate everything in terms of earthly distances. Okay, we calculate things in terms of earthly distances. But when Brahma goes to sleep, when it's time for him to rest, the entire universe, because he's creating the whole universe, it's not just planet Earth. We got to stop thinking that life exists only on planet Earth and everything happens on planet Earth and there is nothing else outside of this. But you should know that the whole universe is where life is, and Brahma creates the whole universe, and the universe is humongous. The universe is humongous, okay? And as long as 8 million miles may sound, it is less than a quarter of the distance to the sun, between the earth and the sun. Okay, so 8 million mile big fish still has time to swim. Now, so the fish comes, fish has a horn. He's in a boat, King Satyavrat. Now here's another interesting bit. I'm just trying to explain how this works. So there is a snake. Okay, there's a snake. There's a big snake. Okay, his name is Vasuki. Okay, so Vasuki ties the boat to the horn that is on top of the fish's head. Okay, to pull the boat. So the boat is safe during the inundation of the water. Now if the fish is 8 million miles long, then Vasuki is going to be longer than that. So I'm not going to take any guesses because the Bhagavatam doesn't say that. It's a big snake. Okay, snakes are big. I don't particularly like snakes. They're okay. There was when I was in school, they had this nature group come over, and I brought a few snakes, and they could you could like hold the snake and touch the snake. And so I grabbed a snake once and I squeezed it a bit. They're quite smooth on the surface and they're a little bit squidgy, but they still have a vertebrae within, and it's kind of a weird feeling, a snake. So anyway, ever since I touched that snake, I'm not a big fan of snakes and the slimy snakes and stuff. But Vasuki, cosmic snake, he's a good snake. So he helps during that time. He's a huge snake. And then the fish, Matsya the fish, and the snake, Vasuki, guide this boat that is full of devotees to a safe destination. Now, okay, I just want to clarify something here. I know I've been a bit funny and humorous, okay, and I'm making jokes, but this is serious stuff, okay? I made it humorous just so you could understand, but anything that the mind can't comprehend, we try and make it funny, because it seems like a joke to us. How can something be like that? How can something be that big? How can something like this happen? Because it is beyond the constraints of our mind, okay? Anything that is beyond the constraints of our mind sounds like a joke. That is why fantasy stories, Cinderella films, Disney films are fun, because we think it's a fantasy, it's not real, it can't exist. And it's probably true, but the point is, we put the Bhagavatam and we put all these stories in the same category as Disney films, okay? And I want to tell you that this is not Disney, okay? Walt Disney had nothing to do with the Bhagavatam, and these are not fairy tales. Just because we can't comprehend it does not mean that they are not real. Srila Prabhupada told us, if you try to think of everything logically, you will never be able to comprehend all this with your puppy brains. Okay, Srila Prabhupada used the term, with your puppy brains. So brains are like little puppies. Okay, puppies can't really understand much. They're just kind of, pupping about. But with our puppy brains, there's only so much we can understand. So just because we can't comprehend it doesn't mean it's not true. The whole universe is a playground of Brahma. Brahma creates the whole universe. He put life forms in different planets. He creates millions of planets. There is a cosmic ocean, okay? A fish 8 million miles is nothing, okay, compared to the size of the ocean. And all these stories, the inundation of the earth, you can't comprehend it. But it is true, it's not a joke, okay? So Matsya, Lord Vishnu in the form of Matsya, saves Satyavrat Muni and the devotees, and after that inundation of water happens, they come along, and then starts a new sort of kalpa after that. So we'll get to that bit later, as in you will, in your future sessions, not me, because I'm only doing this session. But there is an interesting conversation that happens between the fish, Matsya the fish, and Satyavrat Muni on the boat, okay? Because world's drowning, you need to talk about something, you need some entertainment, and let's talk about some philosophy. So Satyavrat Muni is really glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of a fish. And interestingly, he refers to the Lord as the Supreme Spiritual Master. Now that is very interesting. I'll tell you why. Because this concept of spiritual master or the guru is very misunderstood. And Matsya talks about this as well. So the fish replies and teaches Satyavrat Muni about Sankhya Yoga. Okay, Sankhya Yoga, matter and spirit. And he talks about the spiritual master and the guru as well. So the reason he calls him the guru of all gurus, Satyavrat Muni calls Matsya as the supreme spiritual master, is because ultimately the guru tattva, okay, the principle behind the guru is that the Lord is speaking to you through a certain person who you okay, whoever you choose, as long as they're following, as long as they're connected to parampara, the Lord will speak through that person to you and give you directions and give you instructions. In this case, Satyavrat Muni was lucky. Krishna spoke to him directly through the fish. Now we may not see such miracles, but it does not mean that Krishna cannot speak to you. And that is why the parampara has a system called initiation where you accept a guru, you accept a spiritual master, and Krishna speaks to you through that person. But ultimately, one should understand that all spiritual masters are one. Not in a Mayavad sort of way, not in a way that they're all one in that sense, but ultimately, whoever you pick as your spiritual master, whoever you pick as your guru, as long as they're in parampara, and as long as they're following the principles outlined by Rupa Goswami in the first verse of the Nectar of Instruction, he makes it very simple. Okay, Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam. Look up that verse. In that verse, Rupa Goswami gives us principles of who is qualified to be a guru. So when somebody is qualified to be a guru and they are coming in parampara, parampara means a disciplic succession, then they are qualified. And if you choose such a person, master, and make a commitment, Krishna will speak to you through that person. Ultimately, whoever you pick, as long as they are following these two things, Krishna will speak to you. And hence, it is said that Guru is one, and that ultimate Guru is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is what Matsya and Satyavrat Muni are talking about in this chapter. Just like I'm speaking through a computer, okay? We're just plugged into a socket over here. Now, I got so many sockets around this house. I got a socket here, a socket there, a socket in the other room. There's a socket here, socket everywhere. Okay, a lot of sockets. Now I could plug this in anywhere and it'll work. Okay, if I plug it into this socket, it could work. If I plug it into that, it'll work. If I plug it in next door through an extension lead, it'll work everywhere. The idea is here or there, you got to get plugged in somewhere. Okay, anywhere you can get initiated by anybody as long as they are in disciplic succession and they're following the principles. You can get initiated by anybody, and whoever you pick, Krishna will speak to you through that person. So the question is, who are you going to pick? Okay, the question is who you're going to pick. So one answer to that is, it doesn't matter, because ultimately you want Krishna's instructions. But the other side to that is, you should pick somebody you can connect to, somebody you can trust, somebody who is able to deliver the same information in a way that you are able to pick up and follow and be inspired. That is the idea. Okay, but otherwise, Guru Tattva is one. The ultimate Guru is the super soul in the heart. The ultimate Guru is Krishna. And hence, in this chapter, Satyavrat Muni is praying to the fish incarnation, and he's telling him that you are the ultimate supreme spiritual master. Okay, and when he prays to him in this way, then Matsya takes the role of a guru. Matsya takes the role of a guru, and he teaches Satyavrat Muni about, it's not Satyavrat Muni, the king Satyavrat, about this philosophy of Krishna consciousness and the philosophy of Sankhya Yoga, which Prabhupada writes in brackets, is also Bhakti Yoga, because everything can be aligned with Bhakti. So the fish becomes the spiritual master of the king. But it's not an ordinary fish, it's Vishnu in the form of Matsya. Okay, now just to end the chapter, and then we'll have some time for questions. What happens is that it is mentioned that Satyavrat Muni, okay, we've spoken about two Manus. One was Swayambhuva Manu, okay, who was the first Manu during which the fish appeared. Second Manu, during the second Manu's reign, the second Manu was Chakshusha Manu. During his reign, this fish appeared, and Satyavrat Muni was, saved by the fish, Matsya incarnation. And it is said that afterwards, Satyavrat Muni becomes the third Manu. Okay, so he becomes Vaivasvata Manu, whose reign we are in now. Okay, he becomes Vaivasvata Manu. Now, Vaivasvata Manu, Prabhupada writes, his name is Vaivasvata Manu because he is a son of Vivaswan. And Vivaswan is the name of the sun god. So Prabhupada makes an interesting link. He says, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that I imparted this knowledge first to the sun god, who taught to his son Manu. Do you remember that? That's there in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, Krishna says, I imparted this knowledge first to the sun god, and sun god imparted this to Manu. Okay, now that Manu is Vaivasvata Manu, who was King Satyavrat in his past life. Okay? So that's why the story is very, very relevant, and here we're making a link between him and the Bhagavad Gita. So Satyavrat Muni, who got instructions from the fish, in his next life becomes Vaivasvata Manu, who gets instructions from his father, and which is the same succession that Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita. So there you go, we've gone full circle. Okay? We started with some philosophy and we ended up in the same place. That is the story of the fish. Now, we got 20 minutes, I know, and we can talk more and more, but I want to see, let's open it up to some questions, some discussion and stuff like that. Otherwise, we can talk a bit more. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts or anything that you would like to share with us today?
Okay, thank you very much, Prabhu. If anyone wants to raise their hands, and I'll pick the person one at a time, or you can kindly unmute if that's okay. I'll start off if that's okay, Prabhu. You're talking about taking sort of shelter of a guru. Now, for everyone, including myself, it's very confusing because everyone is similar, as you were saying, in terms of, you know, what they're speaking about, their way of delivering a message, and it's quite confusing if you're making a choice of trying to think about the steps that you should be taking to find out who you should approach to be your spiritual master. What is the process that you would suggest in that, because of all this confusion, because everyone seems to be very similar, you can't distinguish from one person to another?
Yeah. Very good question. Thank you, Dharmendra Prabhu. So I can obviously discuss it briefly here, but if you want more details how it works, then there is a course called the ISKCON Disciples course, which also which we do like 3 times a year. So they also asked me to teach that course, so I kind of teach that 3 times a year. It's done through the School of Bhakti, but it's a 4-session course where we go through it in a lot more detail. But in brief, the idea is that it's in different ways. See, first of all, if you are in touch with a lot of people who are in that role of a guru, then some people just make a link straight away. They just know. Okay, for some people, they just connect straight away, and they just know who the guru is. Okay, for others, it's not very clear, because like you said, we listen to this person. That was kind of my issue as well. You listen to somebody, oh, they're nice, and I like what they speak, how they speak. Then you listen to somebody else and you're like, oh, they're nice as well. And then you listen to somebody else and they're nice as well. So it just ends up creating more confusion. Now, that's not a problem, okay? Confusion is not always a bad thing. Confusion means you're thinking, you're considering different options. It's, I would say, more like consideration rather than confusion. But here's the next step. This is what you do. So Krishna obviously can speak to anybody. So in one sense, you could just like, I don't know, just write all the names on a sheet of paper and throw a dart and pick somebody and it's okay. Okay. But you don't have to do that. There's another way to do it. The way to do it is, if you find some people a bit more inspiring than others, there are a few considerations that you can take, because one is that a guru and disciple relationship functions properly when there is transfer of information. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. He says, first go and find a spiritual master, pariprashna, ask him questions, and sevaya, render service. So he says 3 things: find, ask, serve. Okay, so our process is the same. You find, there's a whole list of people, then you ask questions. Okay, so listening to lectures is passive. Okay, you're listening to lectures and you're listening to whoever, and then you'll be very inspired. But ask, and that brings the same information thing into a more of an active role, where you're asking questions and they're replying, where you're asking questions and they're replying. So you need to build some form of a connection, and this flow of knowledge It needs to happen in one way or another. Now, you'll find that at this stage, you'll find that many gurus may not be so, you may not be able to communicate with all of them, because sometimes some devotees who act in the role of a guru may have a lot of disciples, they may be busy, they may not be available, they may be living further away to where you are, and that connection may not always be possible. But there should be some connection, possibility of connection somehow, okay? So if it's not in person, direct, face-to-face, question and answer, it can be by email, it can be by WhatsApp, it can be by meeting once a while, but some form of communication needs to be there, because otherwise that relationship breaks down. Now, if you're the sort of person who needs a personal connection, then you should find a person who you can have that personal connection with. If you are the sort of person who is okay with a connection being online, then it's up to you. Then you have more options. And if you're the sort of person who is okay speaking to your guru once or twice a year and getting personal instructions at that time, then that's also up to you. But some form of connection should be there, and you should know what type of connection that should be. So what you should do is make a list of things that you think you need in a guru-disciple relationship. Maybe it can be something like, I need to speak to my guru once a week, once a month, once a year. I need to be able to serve him in some way or another. I need to be able to, ask him questions. I need to be able to, make your list. And then look at all the different devotees and then narrow it down. So I did this exercise when I was confused as well, before I was initiated. And I narrowed my list down to 3 people who I could speak to, and I met all of them. I didn't tell them that I want to get initiated by you. The question you ask is, Hare Krishna Prabhu, or Hare Krishna Maharaj, whoever it is. Maybe in the future, Hare Krishna Mataji. You don't know. I'm not going to start a controversy here, but you can ask Hare Krishna. What you speak really resonates with me. I find it very interesting. Is there a way that we can communicate a bit more? And is there an opportunity for me to ask you questions? And I would also like to be in your association a bit more. I would like to serve a bit more. So have that conversation with that person, okay? And you can have that same conversation with more than one person, because you're not yet asking to be initiated yet. You're just trying to establish a connection and learn more. So make a list in your head, what you like. Make a list of people, narrow it down to 3-4 people, speak to them regularly. And I think once you do that for a while, you will kind of know who that one person is, where you can establish that connection. So if you're trying to find an answer by listening to lectures and thinking, whoever's lecture inspires me the most, I'll get initiated by them, then you'll never get to the end of your search, okay? You'll be there for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you'll never find an answer to that. So the answer to confusion is action. That sounds good for like an Instagram quote. But what you do is make your list, speak to people, narrow it down, try and associate with them more, try and learn from them more, different people, and then you will know who that person is, and then you go and tell them, Hare Krishna, I really feel inspired. And by that time, the good thing is you would have some sort of a rapport as well. You would have established some form of connection, and then you ask them, would you accept me as your disciple? And they'll say, yeah. Or they may say, no, I really don't like you, and then you go to another person. They don't usually say that, I'm just saying, but like that. So you can do different things to see who that person is.
Okay, thank you very much, Prabhu. My second question is, how do they actually move that fish?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Maybe. Well, if I was there to see it, I think it would be an interesting sight. I think it's one thing on my bucket list that I'll never be able to fulfill. How to move a huge fish from a lake to an ocean. I don't know.
Okay. Right. I'm not seeing any hands. You've given a fantastic class, so thank you very much, Prabhu. If we can all kindly unmute and say our three Hari Bols. Hari
Hari
Bol! Hari
Hari
Bol!
Bol.
Bol.
Hari
Hari
Bol!
Bol.